sports? Do you like beer? Do you love sports and beer? Then you're exactly where you need to be. This is the Huebs, Views, and Brews show on 1252 Sports Chicago. Cheers.
How is everyone doing on this Monday morning? You see Alan, our producer, helping us out, getting the show started. It's Huebs, Views, and Brews on Mondays here on the 1252 Chicago Sports Network. And it is Huebs, Views, and Brews. And today is a day I definitely need a brew. And we always start the shows off with a beer. As I get into sports, I got a couple of guests today. Bruce Miles, a semi-retired writer with the Daily Herald. He's got some stuff going on. We'll talk about a lot of different things. I've got a Sunstrike from Skeleton Key. I've been drinking Skeleton Key beers all week long. I've been drinking Things We Don't Say, their version on the beer that helped explain and bring an effort to break the silence about mental health. Also, Paintball Fight. It is a kettle sour. I've been drinking those. I stopped over at Skeleton Key, actually drove past Skeleton Key, saw the damage from the tornado from last Sunday, and went over to Miskatonic, and that's what this one is. This is a Miskatonic and Skeleton Key collaboration, Sunstrike. It is a summery wheat ale with a Meyer lemon peel and rose hips. Very drinkable, 5.4%. I had one the other day. I'm going to have one now in my Leinenkugel's glass from my guys over at the Showboat Saloon in the Wisconsin Dells. It's been a rainy couple days, and the White Sox had some rain problems on Saturday. Why they started the game on Saturday when they knew there was only a 2-hour window without rain in the afternoon, I don't know. They finished up the game on Saturday, the suspended game on Sunday, lost that game, and then ended up winning the nightcap with guys that don't usually produce, doing a lot of the production for the runs for the White Sox. And the Cubs, they've got their struggles, and they now go to Milwaukee. Over the last 3 days, the Cubs have dropped 3 straight games against the LA Dodgers. This after the combined no-hitter on Thursday night. You thought things were looking good, the start of a 10-game road trip, and then you get a combined no-hitter. It's like, okay, great, everything's good. The next 3 games, the Cubs proceeded to strike out 45 times. That's right, 45 times. I think it was 14 the first game, 16 the second, and 15 the third. They got some brutal numbers offensively to look at. They are hitting 188, a combined 188 in June. There's no surprise why they have fallen out of first place. Now a 3-game deficit to Milwaukee, and that's where they open up a series here on Monday night against the Brewers for the next 3 days. Then they get games with Cincinnati before returning home. And you look at it, and you lose 3 in a row. You strike out 45 times. They have not gotten 10 or more hits in a game. More than once. I think just once in the last 25, 26 games. And now Anthony Rizzo, who's struggling himself, he's not hitting the ball. He's hitting just 248. And in my opinion, having some struggles in the field. He's a gold glover. He's won a platinum glove before. And I've seen him make some mistakes on easy plays over at first base. Maybe it's the tightness in his lower back that's affecting him. It's a shame to see. But he's going to be sitting out a game or 2, I would think, and not playing on Monday night as they open a series in Milwaukee. The team's not hitting. Just absolutely not hitting. And the pitching staff is starting to let him down a little bit. Other than Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks has won his last 8 starts. 8 straight wins for Kyle Hendricks. You were hoping for some nice outings from an Adbert Alzolay on Sunday night. That didn't happen as he struggled with control, struggled with some problems finding the plate. A couple of walks, a hit batter, a 6-run second inning for the Dodgers. And that game on Sunday night was over very, very early. So a real big series for the Cubs in Milwaukee. Then they go to Cincinnati, and the Reds are 3 games back of the Cubs. Cubs are 3 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers. So let's see what the Northsiders can do. let's turn our attention really quickly to the South side because, again, I understand. Actually, I can't say I understand. Have no idea why the White Sox tried to play on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. I'm sorry. It was a 1:10 first pitch. I was at the radio station leading up to White Sox Weekly from 10:30 to 12:30. White Sox Weekly was on, and it was expected to rain. It was expected to rain most of the day, and it did. There was about an hour and a half, 2 hour window, but by 3 o'clock it started pouring and it rained really bad. And the White Sox had to suspend the game after 2.5 innings. Now it got better at night. Now, if you could have changed the game and said, "Listen, we're not going to play in the afternoon, but we're going to play in the evening," because I traveled on down to Soldier Field and caught the Chicago Fire, which was an actually interesting game. We'll talk a little bit about that before we're done here on Huebs, Views, and Brews. But yeah, there's no way they were going to get that game in on Saturday afternoon, so they wrapped it up yesterday. They lost. Liam Hendricks had a little problem giving up the long ball. Didn't work out the way they wanted. Team not hitting. Again, both teams in Chicago not hitting. For the longest time, we were able to say a couple of first-place teams in Chicago. Now the White Sox are still in first because the American League Central is really bad. Sox have a 3-game lead, a 2.5 game lead over Cleveland in the division. Cleveland's not good. And then yesterday, another injury as Jose Abreu, who's been struggling throughout the year with little nagging injuries, he gets hit in the left leg, the outside of the left knee. He goes down in pain, in agony, and you go, "Oh, God." Well, that's all we need is another injury to the team leader and Jose Abreu. But going into the ball game today, even though the game got postponed because of the rain, he told Tony La Russa he could play. He could go. And that's the kind of guy that Jose Abreu is. The problem with Jose Abreu right now is Abreu, like Tim Anderson, like Yohan Moncada, is struggling at the plate. And it's a big struggle right now for Jose Abreu. He's hitting 183 in the month of June, struggling big time at the plate. The White Sox need his bat. They need his stick in the plate or in the order because of all the problems that the Sox are having and injury problems. And we know as it's been going on, you had Eloy at the start, then you had Luis Robert, you lose Adam Eaton. Adam Engel's back out again after re-injuring his hamstring. Jose Abreu down for a game, maybe. We'll see if he plays on Tuesday night. But some of the other guys for the White Sox were stepping up. You saw Jake Lamb. Billy Hamilton, who's now out, actually stepped up a little bit. It appears he's going to be close to returning to the White Sox, and that would be nice. And Yermin Mercedes has been struggling big time. What do you do with him? Do you send a Yermin Mercedes down? That was one of my suggestions. And then what's he do? He drives in 3 runs on Sunday. Zach Collins drove in 4 for the White Sox as the White Sox won the nightcap of that weird doubleheader on Sunday with a 7-5 score. So Mercedes with a single and a double, and he drove in a couple of runs. But the team is struggling. They dropped 2 out of 3 to Seattle. They are not playing well. They've only won 2 of their last 8 games, and now they got that series with Minnesota. It was supposed to be 4. Now it's only 3 because of the rainout on Monday night. And it's going to be important to try to get back on a little winning road, okay, a winning track, as they have the Twins for 3 games now because of the rainout, and then they go to Detroit. And it'd be really nice for the White Sox to get on a little bit of a roll. The pitching has done well. They need some bats. They need some guys to come through hitting the ball. And when you don't have Anderson or Moncada at the top of the order, you don't have Abreu in the middle or Mercedes hitting, it's really tough to rely on some of the other guys that are not your normal, typical, everyday guys who did help for a while. Jake Lamb hit a couple of home runs. Jake Lamb was doing okay. But so Sox and Cubs, Sox 2.5 games up. They got Minnesota and Detroit. The Cubs, they're 3 back in Milwaukee. Let's see how they do in the series up at Wrigley Field North up in Milwaukee at American Family Insurance Ballpark, or American Family Insurance Field, I think it's called, after being Miller Park for so long, as you see the Miller Lite bottle right behind me. So we'll get into some more baseball talk because that's what we like to do. We'll talk a lot of beer coming up a little bit later on. Charles St Clair hoping to join us from Black Horizon Brewing in Willowbrook. And right now, let's bring in a buddy, a guy that's been around the press boxes for a long, long time. Because of COVID, he hasn't been recently, and now he's stepped away, semi-retired. We bring in a former writer for the Daily Herald, Bruce Miles. Bruce, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Fred. Great points you made on both baseball teams there. I think I'm more concerned about the Cubs, the team I used to cover. Yep. Batting average way down, and the things they used to do well, like on-base percentage, way down. But here's a couple of things that I think I'm worried about the Cubs. Their starting pitchers have an ERA of 4.60. The relievers 2.67 coming into Monday, a 2-run difference. The starters are not going deep, and sooner or later, to me, that's going to hurt your bullpen. And they've got to start getting more length out of those starting pitchers, or else those relievers are just going to be worn out. On the south side of town, despite all the injuries, and one guy you did mention, Nick Madrigal, out for the season, the Sox have a run differential of plus 85. Cleveland, who you mentioned, -3. They shouldn't be doing as well as they're doing. If the Sox can just hold on, I think they're going to be okay, and maybe they can get a couple of these guys back. But I think the picture's a little bit brighter on the south side, and the Cubs are going to have to decide here really quick, are you buyers or are you sellers going into the July 31st deadline?
Yeah, I mean, a week or so ago, Bruce, when we were talking about that, they had the lead. They were in first place in the division. Now they're 3 games out, and who knows what's going to happen in this Milwaukee series. So it's really important for them to figure out what they're doing. I mean, Jason Hayward had a nice 3 games. The first 3 games in Los Angeles, he had 7 hits in those first 3 games. But they're just not hitting the ball. They're not getting on base. And the strikeouts, I mean, I know the 3 true outcomes, the strikeout, the walk, and the home run. Theo Epstein and all of his Ivy League buddies brought some of this stuff to baseball and the analytics, and now Theo's in the Major League Baseball office trying to fix the problems that these guys brought. But that's not baseball, striking out 45 times in 3 games, Bruce.
No, what baseball has become, and I even mentioned this to Theo when I was on the beat, is baseball's become an exercise in tedium. Walks, strikeouts, home runs. I've seen games where you go 20 minutes without a ball being put into play. Walks, strikeouts, foul balls, nothing happens. Especially kids today, they want to see something happen. That's why they're gravitating toward the NBA and the NFL. Things happen there. Baseball has a big problem on its hands, and the Cubs are kind of the poster child for this because they've been built by a guy who advocated all these things, and now he's seen the light apparently, and it's going to try and work to fix these things. I don't know what the answer is with all of the spin rate, with all of these substances on the ball, but they have a big problem on their hands because it's just so tedious.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things is, in my opinion, Bruce, is you got a guy like Chris Bryant, who I don't think anybody will tell you that he'll sign back here with the Cubs. It would be nice if he did. So you're going to get to a point in a month at the July 30th trade deadline. You're going to get to a point where you say, okay, do we move him for anything just to get something for him? Do we hold on to him just to get a draft pick between the first and second round? What do you think is going to end up with Chris Bryant?
Well, it's a very interesting question, Fred, and the real shame of it is Chris Bryant ought to be a guy that you're building a franchise around. Who better than to put on season ticket brochures and billboards around the city? Telegenic. When he's healthy, he's not just a good talent, he's an elite talent. Good with the media, good with the fans. You drafted him number 1. You had the whole thing with the service time issue. They're in a real bind with him, as they are with Contreras, as they are with Baez, and as they are with Rizzo, especially given his health issues. I don't envy the position, but to me, and it's not my money and I'm not the decision maker, to me, I find a way to keep a guy like Chris Bryant simply because he's everything that you want on and off the field for a star player and a face of the franchise to be.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The one guy I think it's before the trade deadline that you can get rid of, I hate to say it, but Craig Kimbrell, because people are always looking for a closer at the trade deadline. Obviously, look at the Cubs when they went out and got Chapman for Gleyber Torres. You could probably get something for Craig Kimbrell later in this season as you go along.
Oh, I'm sure they can, and they're caught in the worst position you can be right now, and that's in between. A hitter doesn't like to be in between. A pitcher doesn't like to be in between, and certainly a baseball front office doesn't like to be in between. But that's where the Cubs are right now. And if they do have a sell-off and they're close, they're going to be accused like the White Sox were in 1997 of white flagging it. So what do you do if you're Jed Hoyer? It's not a good position to be in. And a lot of this started when they got rid of Yu Darvish. Man, oh man, where would they be with Yu Darvish today? And the shame of that was they got people who hardly even played any professional baseball. So they're in a tough spot. And Kimbrel's an interesting one because if they do backslide, you know, I always said like a closer like that is kind of like a hood ornament on a jalopy. You don't really need him, and you'd probably be better off moving him. He's putting, you know, himself into Hall of Fame consideration now with the number of saves he's gotten and so forth. So you're right. I think that might be the option, but the Cubs are going to be very careful not to face this backlash of white flagging it, especially in a big market like this as that deadline draws near.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Bruce, you were what was the first time you started covering your beat? What was the first time you were a regular covering locker rooms out at Wrigley Field?
Well, I started covering as a backup writer baseball in 1989, helping our beat writers, Mark Ruda, who was doing the Sox, Jeff Norland, Barry Rosner, who was doing the Cubs. I took over the Cubs beat in 1998 from Barry Rosner. In 1998, well, really nothing much happened with the Cubs. 3 days into spring training, Harry Carey collapses and dies a couple days later. Kerry Wood emerges on the scene and strikes out 20 on May 6th of that year. You had the Sammy hitting 20 homers in June thing. You had Jack Brickhouse dying in August, and then you had the wild card race, and then Sosa McGuire. So if I wasn't going to make it in 1998, I wasn't going to make it any year because that was quite some year. But that was my first year on the beat, and I figured once I got through that year, I think I could handle this. Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. And you've actually had a lot of exciting years going forward after that. The last couple of years, when did you decide that, it's time to step back a little bit and not do this on an everyday basis?
Well, it was funny because everybody says that you'll know when it's time. And the Herald offered buyouts in 2018, but it wasn't time either from a personal or professional standpoint. In the fall of 2019, they came around again, and it just felt like the time. I live out in the northwest suburbs. The commute, the grind had been getting a little bit to me. I'm no kid anymore. And it just felt like the right time to do it, but I didn't want to disappear totally. Sure. So I've done a lot of freelancing for various outlets since then and really had a good time with it. But I miss the games. I like the sport. I like baseball. I like all sports. But I don't miss the day-to-day grind and, getting up at midnight because they traded somebody.
Right? Oh yeah. All of a sudden your phone rings. You need a big story because they just made a deal, and you start getting on the phone and trying to find out some of the details. The drive in is always tough. Driving to Wrigley Field, not easy. Even if you had a media parking area and stuff like that, that was difficult. But do you think what's been going on now after COVID and everything else and all these Zoom press conferences, do you think some of Major League Baseball and the Players Association would like it if there weren't writers, reporters, and everything else in the locker rooms going forward?
It's a funny thing. I thought that at the beginning that they would say, yay, yippee, we're going to get rid of these pesky reporters because they would let us in the clubhouse 3.5 hours before the game time. But as I've come to find out, and you talk with people like Anthony Rizzo, they actually kind of miss us, as strange as that sounds. And I think what's good for the reader is that I have a chance, or my competitors have a chance, to go in there and talk one-on-one with a guy in a very relaxed setting in the clubhouse, and you might get a scoop, or you might get a real interesting feature where a guy talks about maybe he's doing something for a family member who's sick, or whatever it might be. So I think that they really are going to take a hard look at this, but as strange as it seems, I know that some of the players have said, yeah, we kind of miss it, the old routine where the media comes in, and I think everybody was respectful of everybody's space. I know that's how I was. If a guy didn't seem to want to talk that day, I left him alone. But if a guy was in his locker and looked receptive, I'd go over and say, hey, do you have a minute? But I do think you're right. I think this is going to be looked at. There may be some new rules, but, I'd hate to see the access limited from a selfish standpoint and for the readers, because I think that in baseball is unique that way. It's not like any other sport where you have this kind of collegiality between the two sides, and it leads to some really great reporting.
Yeah, you don't get that kind of stuff in the NFL. I mean, the NFL, when they are covering practices up at Hallis Hall, when they used to be able to get in the locker rooms, they get information. But baseball, like you said, is a whole different thing because It's every single day. And I used to be covering locker rooms for a while, and you're right, 2.5, 3 hours beforehand, you walk in, half the guys aren't even there yet, and you're there before them. And then you're looking for a story, you're looking to touch on something that happened maybe the day before. So that makes it interesting. But you're not stepping away. I see you're trying to start a new blog out there, aren't you?
Yeah, I just started that the other day. It's called brucemiles.net, and the blog is kind of called Right Out of the Press Box, WRITE, out of the press box. It allows me to talk about current events, a little history, maybe subjects like some, I don't know, travel or wine or Rush music, whatever it might be,
right.
or the Euro soccer tournament. But here's the thing. I think if you're a writer, you never get tired of writing, and you always want to exercise the craft. And this is going to allow me to do that in a kind of a free forum where I'm not beholden to editors, or I'm not beholden to deadlines. I can go off on a little bit of a tangent where I'm not limited to 15 inches of space in the newspaper. So I'm just going to have fun with it, see where it goes. And the one thing I think, if I had any success as a writer, was that I always tried to write for the reader. I never wrote for other writers to impress them. I never wrote to please editors. I always wrote for the reader and the fan, and I always engage them. I always answer emails. I engage on Twitter and Facebook, whatever it might be. So this gives me a chance to do this on my own. I can do it whenever I want. If I want to do it every day, if I want to do it once a week, that's fine. But mainly to have fun and to allow me to exercise the craft a little.
Well, since you mentioned the Euros, one of our listeners just said, "Is anyone going to beat Belgium here in the Euro 2020?" It's been interesting today. Two tremendous games between Spain and Croatia, and then that Switzerland game against France, unbelievable. And all of a sudden, it goes to penalty kicks, and Mbappe missed. It's funny. I was going to ask you, years and years ago, David Beckham once said, he might have said it in his book. He said, they don't save PKs, you miss them. Now, do you think Mbappe missed his, or do you think it was saved?
I think it was a great save. If you look before that, all of the PKs were made. And despite some good efforts by both goalkeepers, Zomer for Switzerland and Lloris for France, the players really struck the balls well, put them in the back of the net. So, I think Mbappe gave it his all. But like you said, great theater throughout this. You asked about Belgium. Well, one of my favorites, because I'm a Manchester City fan, Kevin De Bruyne is on Belgium, so I'm kind of pulling for them. But to me, after what we've seen, all bets are off. I thought Italy was the best team going into the weekend, and they nearly got beat by Austria. Yep. So to me, it's like all bets are off, and let's just enjoy this thing. It's great theater for a midsummer here.
Yeah, I try to explain that, and it's funny, too, because a lot of people who are not into soccer, and I got into it in 1990. I've told the story before. I was never a fan before that, but I gave it a chance and learned the rules and learned the rivalries and the passion that comes from all the countries overseas. But the Euros are so much fun to watch, and tomorrow, England and Germany. I'm German. I know all the guys on both teams, and it's going to be a fun game to watch. You just hope it's going to be hard to compare or hard to match the kind of stuff we got from today.
Yeah, I was joking with my wife here that we're probably going to see a 0-0 game tomorrow, and it'll go to penalties after, extra time. But yeah, it's I've seen games in both countries. I've seen games in Germany, one game Germany, a couple of games in England, and been to both countries numerous times. And it's really ingrained there, part of the culture, and the fans really live it. You've got the Canadians in the Stanley Cup. That's religion there. All of the soccer/football teams over there, it's religion there. But, I urge people, people say soccer is boring. Well, I heard that about baseball too. And I say it's only boring to boring minds. Watch away from the ball. Watch what the back line is doing. Watch what the midfielders are doing. To me, soccer games are won or lost in the midfield. And just watch how fast these guys move and how much body contact there really is. To me, it's just a fascinating sport, and one that becomes more so as I watch more of it.
Yeah, it's so much a contact sport. I mean, basketball is more of a contact sport because of the closeness of it. But some of the tumbles these guys take, granted, a lot of them they may look like they're dead and they jump up right away as soon as they get a whistle. But a lot of them are just taking a beating out there. And it's fun to see, and this is the best you can see right now in the Euros. I can't wait. I know Friday and Saturday will be the quarterfinals. It's going to be so much fun to watch. You had mentioned Rush. I know you're a big Rush fan. And first of all, I want to know where it came from. How did you get so into Rush?
Well, I got the Loyola 12 shirt on right now as we're speaking, and that's kind of how it came about. Mid-70s, I'm 18 years old in 1975. I like hard rock. I was looking for something a little bit more substance. And I heard Rush's Fly album in 75, and then 2112 came out in the spring of 76. And I saw them at the Riviera Theater May 28, 1976, 2112 tour, and I was just blown away by it. I really liked the precision, the power, the craftsmanship, the lyrics. And from then on, I've been a fan, 45 years. I tell my wife I had a relationship with Rush longer than I had with her. So, Rush won and her second one. I'm not going to say that. But anyway, that's how it happened. Really, I was captivated by that. And they've gone through a lot of changes in the way they present music. Guitar-based drums, synthesizers, keyboards, and then back to that guitar-based drum. Really great lyrics by the late Neil Peart. But they were kind of the whole package for me of what I was looking for.
Okay, you're breaking up a little bit. I was able to hear some of it and most of it. And that concert in 76, I was at that one also at the Riviera, because I remember at one of the very last songs, or during the encore, they played I Think I'm Going Bald, because it wasn't one of their big hits, and it never will be one of their big hits. And it was one that I heard, and it was quite interesting for them to play that. Another question I had for you about them is, do you think, I thought I heard something about it a little while ago, but do you think Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson we're going to put him on away for a second and see if we can get maybe a better connection or something, as Bruce's was breaking up just a little bit. So we'll see if we can, but there's so much stuff with Rush out there. And I had a situation where I read, Neil Peart wrote a ton of books, and they were awesome books, travel books about motorcycling and bicycling in Africa and stuff like that. If you're a Rush fan, you can read so much about him. And it was amazing that even late in Rush's career, Neil Peart all of a sudden changed the way he played drums. He was taking lessons on how to play drums the classic style, instead of holding the sticks normal, holding them the way regular drummers do. And I thought that was all pretty interesting stuff. Let's see if we got Bruce back, if we can hear him. Yeah, it looks like we got a little bit of problems still. I wanted to talk a little bit more with Bruce, but you know what? We'll get him on some other time when there's a better connection. I know there's a lot of storms going on. Bruce, appreciate it. Again, if you want to check out his new blog, it is brucemiles.net. That's brucemiles.net. Some great stuff called Right Out of the Press Box, WRITE, right out of the press box. Bruce, sorry for the little glitches that happens when we're working on computers, especially nowadays with the storms that are going around in the area, but we appreciate it. Bruce, always a great guy. Joined me and Murph on ESPN 1000 and on The Score for years and years. Always one of the best guys to talk to when we talk in Chicago Cubs baseball, or baseball of any kind. And that was a great thing. And like he said, always writing for the readers, writing for people that are reading and trying to find out, and giving them the information that they may need and they may want and may be looking for. And I think that's what all writers actually should be doing. And I think Bruce has always done that. I know a lot of my friends live up in the Northwest side and read the Daily Herald. So I'm sure that the Cub fans out there are missing Bruce Miles following the Cubs on a daily basis. Before we go on, let's take a quick break. Some of our sponsors, as we can't just do this easily on a daily basis with all the other shows. You've got the Fat Mike Show. You've got all the other shows that you see right here, Turtles Takes, here on the 1252 Sports Chicago Network. So we have a few sponsors. Let's run some of them right now.
Hello, this is Paul from Nick and Ivy Brewing Company. We are located at 1026 South State Street in historic downtown Lockport, Illinois. We are very excited to be partnering up with the Fat Mike Chicago Sports Show, as well as the 1252 brand, because we are one of the few Chicagoland breweries that embrace sports and sports culture. Come in for a fresh brewed beer made right here in Lockport while catching the game of your favorite team. Stay for the live music that we have booked every weekend, or just come for a cozy atmosphere to enjoy a good conversation with a friend, loved one, or complete stranger. Nick and Ivy makes you feel right at home no matter what the occasion is. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for Nick and Ivy Brewing Company. Visit our website, for our up-to-date tap list or to go shopping on our online store at nickivybrewing.com. That's NIKIVY brewing.com. Come in today for fresh brewed beer born and raised in Lockport, Illinois.
Back and I was at Nick and Ivy. They just released the label for the Fat Mike Lager, and it looks very, very good. And the beer is very good. Was out there when they released the beer a week or so ago. Had a very, very good time out at Nick and Ivy. We're going to talk a little bit more beer in a minute. I just wanted to mention one other thing when we had Bruce Miles on. He also is an author, co-author on a novel called The Phenom. So you can probably try and track that down. You can follow Bruce, as he mentioned. He's always on Twitter and always on Facebook and everything else. So we appreciate Bruce for jumping on in. Bruce, hey, we got you back for a second. How you doing?
I'm doing good. We were talking a little rush there.
Yeah, I know we did, and we're still having a little bit of a break it up. I'm not sure what it is, if it's my end or your end, but what's going on?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Yeah, you're sounding like you're sounding like an Alex Lifeson guitar strum. So it's going in and out. So you know what? Let's do that. Let's do it again sometime. We'll Bruce, we appreciate you jumping back in, and we'll work it out some other time. Get you on for a little extended period, because I want to talk a little bit more about Rush and a little bit more about soccer. There aren't a lot of the people that are going to join me here that know soccer and baseball and Rush as well as Bruce Miles does. So you again check out his book, The Phenom, if you can track it down. And Bruce is always out there; he can help you out, and he's a great guy. Twitter and on Facebook and everything else. Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson making new music. I think I could go for that. I've got Geddy Lee's solo album, and it's very good. And I think he wrote the lyrics. It wasn't Neil Peart writing those lyrics, so that was really good stuff. It is called Huebs, Views, and Brews because I love talking about beer. And the last several years, it's been great because where I live here in Downers Grove, I can run a ring around the area, the radius, and I run into a ton of different breweries. And a couple years ago, Black Horizon Brewing opened up in Willowbrook, and it's one of my favorites. It's great to get on out there. And let's bring in Charles St Clair from Black Horizon Brewing. Charles, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Fred. You are far too kind with your words.
Oh, of course, the kind words. We're having a little bit of a technical problem. I'm not sure if it's on our end or what, but let's see if we can get through this.
I think that was on Bruce's side. I saw you. You were fine. He was the one that was freezing up, so I think it's his network connection.
Yeah, it's weird because you're chopping it up a little bit too, but let's see if we can get it done because I was looking forward to this. And it's funny because I've had several of the other ones on, and I stopped by one time and I told you, I said, yeah, I brought my girlfriend here and I brought my girlfriend here. You said, what? We don't rate? Yeah, I'm just waiting for a perfect time to bring her on over to Black Horizon Brewing because you guys have been doing some great stuff. Your IPAs, I don't know, what are you up to now? Number 13 or volume 13 or 14?
18.
Where are you at now?
You missed a few. We just polished off 18.
18. Okay. They're all good.
Next iteration is 19.
Yeah. Each and every one is better than the next. It's awesome. They're so good. And you guys, I've been looking at a lot of stuff online when you guys brought in all the 10 barrel operation. And that had to do a lot for your place. Really helped you do all the canning and everything else. What made you get involved in this? Because it's not like the most secure thing in the world.
Well, I do have a day gig, so I do have that. So I can fall back on my day job if worse comes to worse. This is just a hobby, and Kevin and Alex have been homebrewing for so long, and they're both so talented. And it was just time to take their skills commercial, just to see if we were viable. And I have to say it, Alex, and those guys, they make a damn good product. And I just hear good things. People out in public, they stop me, like, I've been to Black Horizon, it's fantastic, I can't wait to go back, I can't tell my neighbors, tell my friends. So, just got into it just for a little beer. And as a plan B, you can have a plan A, you can have a plan B, but your plan B can't be plan A revised. So this is completely different than what I do in my plan A.
It is, and but the thing is, it's grown, and I know I've talked to everybody about how things have gone and how you guys were able to survive during COVID. It's tough in the first place getting people to come into your place. Not your place in particular. I'm talking about every craft brew place. They got to figure out, how do we get people in? And then when you get people in, how do we get them coming back? When COVID struck, how difficult was that for you guys? Because it was so difficult for a lot of other places, I know.
Well, for us, it wasn't too bad. We were able to quickly pivot to can most of the things that we had on tap, because we were already going to start doing it. So we had already ordered the cans. So and that's the thing too. Cans, there was a shortage of cans during COVID because everybody started canning everything. So aluminum shortages, and so we kind of crept ahead of the curve on the canning. And so we just started dumping things in the cans, and we already had hollers and growlers to go, so that was fine. But another reason for us to go to canning is, not everybody wants to buy a new howler or a new growler every time you come in, because people forget their howlers and growlers. So, they don't have to spend $6, $3 every time they come in. Now they can just grab a 4-pack of beer and roll out the door, and that's just easy. It was just, and it kept one of our part-time employees, gainfully employed during that process too. I think he's only off for a couple, 2-3 weeks, when things were really starting to shut down. And but yeah, we just made that pivot so quickly.
You're sounding a little better than Bruce, but not much. And this is really frustrating to me because there's so much stuff I want to talk to you about, and I want to make sure everybody can hear it. So let's see if we can try to reconnect. If you can reconnect and try this one more time, because I want to get you back on. There's a lot of things I want to talk to you about. So let's see if you can dial back into the link again and see if it works a little bit better. Okay, Charles?
Okay.
Okay. Because there's so many things I want to talk to Charles about, because they've done so many great things over at Black Horizon Brewing. And I can understand Charles, but I know it might be difficult for the people listening and for the people that are going to be hearing it on Spotify. And I want to make sure it works out, because Charles is an awesome guy. There were a couple times where I would head on over. Sorry, needed to take a drink. Technical problems, late starts, all kinds of little things when you're doing a podcast. And, I have 2 great guests, and I want to make sure everything works out. You look perfect now. I think it's going to be wonderful.
All right, sweet. How's my audio sound?
Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. I don't know what the problem is today. Maybe it's our system. You know what? I don't want to keep talking to you if we're not going to be able to hear you and understand it. So let's do this. Let's try to work this out for the next week or 2, and we'll get you back on when we can hear you wonderfully. Okay?
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Charles. I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time. Sorry for the technical problems. And it's really a pest. You never know when technical problems are going to jump up. Charles, one of the great guys in the beer industry. I headed over there. This is one of the stories I wanted to talk to him about. It was 2 years ago, and my wife was sick, was going through cancer. Most people know she passed away in October of 2019. So this was Easter of 2019. So earlier on in the year in April. And I worked during the day at ESPN 1000. And I was heading over to the Easter get-together with my wife, Pat, and her family. But I was going to be a little early. So I said, you know what? What better place to go to than Black Horizon Brewing? And that's what I did. I went over to Black Horizon. They were open on Easter Sunday, and there was only one person there, and it was Charles. And I sat at the bar, had a couple of beers with Charles, talked to him. They've done such great stuff. They did a very, very cool thing. There was all the situations last year with the social justice push for with BLM and everything else like that. And they did a wonderful thing along with some other people. That's why I want to get more information from Charles. But they did the Black is Beautiful, the Imperial Stout, and it was made by about 30 different breweries. Everybody did their spin on it, kind of a little bit like the Things We Don't Say, where they were raising money to go to charities. And what those companies did was they actually helped raise awareness to or for the injustices for people of color, and also help raise funds for police brutality reform. And I was reading some articles about Charles, and talking about how he saw a bunch of guys my age looking like me walking in asking for Black is Beautiful. And it wasn't something that he was used to hearing. And the beer was wonderful. The cause was great, and they were able to raise some money. And I thought that was a great thing, and I wanted to get a little bit more into it. Unfortunately, due to our technical problems, we're not able to do that. But I want to get him back. I feel real bad that we were able to, and for the end of Bruce too, because Bruce was really good, and all of a sudden it seemed like we hit a glitch there, and it was very difficult to hear him, because Bruce and I could go on for a while about Rush, and hopefully we can get both of these guys on again at a later date. A little frustrating, but hey, that's why I drink during the show, trying not to be too frustrated. So anyway, let's talk a little bit more. A couple other things I want to get to before we're done here on a Monday night for Huebs, Views, and Brews. One of them is Pat Foley announced earlier this week that he is going to be stepping down as Hawks announcer. 39 years of broadcasting Blackhawks hockey. And it sounds like he may be getting pushed out a little bit. Not sure. Nobody knows for sure. We're all guessing. Only people that know are probably the Blackhawks and Pat Foley. But Pat Foley is the voice that many, many Blackhawk fans grew up with. I grew up with Lloyd Pettit. Then I also grew up with Pat Foley, and had a chance to meet with Pat Foley, had a chance to play basketball with Pat Foley on the Chicago Radio All-Stars team with Les Grobstein and David Schuster. They also do their Grobstein-Schuster Express on Sunday nights. You can also find it on the 1252 Sports Chicago Network. Find it on Spotify and YouTube, and also the Twitch.tv. But yeah, Pat Foley is a guy that will be missed. I don't know how they're going to replace him. Do you go with John Weideman? Do you simulcast? Some hockey teams are actually simulcasting their broadcast, where they're running one broadcast and it's being simulcast on both TV and radio. That's difficult because it's hard to simulcast a TV broadcast because the announcers aren't as descriptive as the radio announcers need to be. So I'll be interested to see what the Blackhawks do, but that's not for a year. Foley will be here for the next season, as the Blackhawks will drop the puck again near October. Soccer. I mentioned I went to the Chicago Fire soccer game. Michael says bring back Dan Kelly. That's a possibility. Dan Kelly wasn't really accepted all that well when he took over for Pat Foley. I know Dan pretty well, having worked with him after he took my job with the Chicago Fire. Got to know Dan pretty well. He's really a good guy. We'll see what the Blackhawks end up doing. But went to the Chicago Fire game on Saturday. It was raining throughout the day, as I talked about. That's why the White Sox, all these sports getting confused. That's why the White Sox had to postpone their game and then suspend it for the next day. But I went out to Soldier Field. It was really nice. It stopped raining. The field was so wet. Every time the ball hit, you saw splashes. Every footstep, splashes. Chicago Fire scored an own goal early on, took a 1-0 lead, and then Philadelphia came back. Philadelphia Union, coached by Jim Curtin, a very, very good head coach and a very good team. And he got his team up to a 2-1 lead. The Chicago Fire came back. They battled back. They got a goal on a very, very nice kick from Madron. And Madron with a perfect ball into the box, and Sekulic hit it in, tied the game at 2. Chicago Fire took a 3-2 lead on a corner, and Mauricio Pineda puts it in. It was awesome, a 3-2 advantage. And then Chicago Fire got an own goal to start the game and gave up an own goal at the end. It was a shot from the right side. It was a save by Bobby Shuttlesworth. He saved it. As he did, it bounced off of one of his defenders into the net, a 3-3 draw. The Chicago Fire get a point. Now, the Fire have been struggling. They have 1 win in 10 games. 1 win, 2 draws, and 7 losses. But it was encouraging. They were able to score some goals because you can't win without scoring. I've been saying it for a couple of weeks here on Huebs, Views, and Brews. You can't win without scoring. And it was really nice to see the Chicago Fire have some nice soccer plays to put the ball in the net. It was very, very cool for them to do it. Let's go back to the Euro 2020s. Tomorrow morning, it's England and Germany. Tuesday morning, England, Germany at Wembley. All eyes. Anybody that's a soccer fan, anybody that's interested in soccer, or anybody that's not working and has to be at a desk or in a meeting or something like that is going to be watching England, Germany tomorrow, 11 o'clock on ESPN. Then it'll be Sweden against Ukraine. And after that, the quarterfinals will be set. The other quarterfinal matchups are all set already. It'll be Switzerland against Spain after they both came away with wins today. Croatia, a gallant comeback. They forced extra time, and then in extra time, Spain scored twice to take a 5-3 victory. And Switzerland down 3-1 in the 81st minute, and they scored 2 goals against France. And then they go to extra time, no goals, and in the penalty kick shootout at the end, both teams make their first 4. Switzerland makes its 5th, and Kylian Mbappe, one of the top players in the world, gets stopped. And France is out of the Euros, and Switzerland moves on. Also, you'll have Belgium playing Italy. That should be some match. Cannot wait for that. And then you have the Czech Republic going against Denmark. The other match will be the 2 winners from tomorrow. I'm hoping it's Germany. Germany has not played well since they won the World Cup. They actually went out of the last World Cup losing the first 3 games, their group stage games, and did not make it to the next round. So we'll see how things go there for the Chicago Fire. Each and every week, there's something that bothers me. So we do a little segment here called What's Up, Fred's Can. Let's do that right now.
Well, maybe it's just because you're ugly.
Ugly? You gotta be kidding me.
Oh, come on!
Time for What's Up Fred's Can on 1252 Sports Chicago.
There's a lot of things up my can. Tonight, actually, buffering is up my can. Buffering's up my can because I had 2 great guests. We got most of Bruce Miles, and then we lost him at the end, and we weren't able to get much of Charles St Clair, one of the owners. Yeah, bad technology is up my can. There's no doubt about it, Alan. There is no doubt about it. This won't be the last beer I have tonight. Let's just say this. This Sunstrike from the collaboration with Skeleton Key, Miskatonic will not be the only beer I have tonight because these two guests were great. They took the time out to come on with me, and because of technology and because of buffering and things like that, we were unable to get them on for the extent we'd like to. I mentioned last week when I had the show with Murph, right before the show, every once in a while you'll hear people say, we had a great show for you today. And for decades, I would make fun of people that would say that because you never know how great the show is until the show is over with. Now, coming into the show tonight, I had 2 great guests lined up. Bruce Miles was an awesome guest. He's a great guy. And then all of a sudden buffering started. We started hearing problems. We couldn't reconnect with him. We tried to get Charles St Clair from Black Horizon on. He's an awesome guy, a tremendous owner of a great craft brewery called Black Horizon in Willowbrook. And we couldn't do anything. And I feel so bad about it for both of them. And we will definitely get both of them on again as soon as the show's over. I'm going to apologize. So what's up my can today is technology. Should be a hell of a lot easier than this to reconnect with people. And it wasn't tonight. So we're going to end the show now a little bit earlier than we do sometimes. Make sure you check out the Fat Mike Sports Show. Make sure you head to Nick and Ivy and check out Fat Mike Lager because Fat Mike Lager is awesome. It's a very easy drinking lager. That's what Mike needs because he doesn't like just drinking 1 or 2. Fat Mike likes to drink 6 or 7. And he always gets a ride. He does. I promise. So thanks for jumping in on a Monday night. I apologize that we were able to bring you everything I had planned to bring you. Let's go see what the Cubs do. Let's see how the White Sox do with their series with the Twins. And don't miss it. If you're a soccer fan, you got to check out Euro 2020, especially on Tuesday morning as England and Germany go at it at 11 o'clock. You know where I'll be. I'll be in front of the TV watching ESPN, pulling for the Germans and see if they can knock off the squad from England at Wembley. It won't be easy, but it should be a good game. Hopefully, it just comes close to the excitement we had in the two games today, a 5-3 win by Spain in extra time over Croatia, and also a win 5-4 in penalty kicks from Switzerland as they knocked off the defending World Cup champions, France. So thanks a lot for jumping on in. Thanks for listening, not only on my Facebook page, but also on twitch.tv, also on YouTube. And you can always hear us the day after the podcast on Spotify. Just go to the 1252 Chicago platform and you can catch it there. So thanks for jumping on in. Until then, this is the first of several tonight. Many beers here on Huebs, Views, and Brews. Thanks a lot.